Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about Minecraft Dungeons, and this will probably be my shortest review on the channel. It's going to be a really short video because I do not have much to say, and it's kind of a good thing, right? Now, a game like this is kind of hard to review because of the different price points, I guess you could say, it's put at across different platforms. Like on PlayStation, it's $20. You know, on Xbox, it's also $20, but if you have Game Pass, it could be $10. If you have, you know, if there's a promotion going, it could be $1. If you already had Game Pass, this game's practically free. So, it's all at different price points that you kind of have to rate this game at. You know, is it worth $20? Is it a good free game? Is it a good $10 game? And so, I'm going to go through what I like and don't like, and then I'll kind of address it with different price points. Alright, so first, I guess let's start off with just the gameplay, because that's probably the most important, you know, and it's solid. I did not expect to like this game at all. Like, I thought I was going to hate it, but it's pretty fun, you know, at least if you play on the highest difficulty possible. So when you play through the game, there's difficulty 5, which is essentially the hardest difficulty possible on your first run through, and then once you finish it, you can play on 2 higher difficulties, right? So, you really have to be playing on that difficulty 5 for this to be even the slightest bit challenging. You know, with more people, I don't know if it spawns more enemies or not for more players, but with 3 and even 2 people on that level 5 difficulty, that's kind of right where you want to be at, right? You can't go any higher, so I can't say if 6 or 7, you know, on that first run through with that, you know, leveling up gear you have would be better, but you definitely don't want to go any lower than 5 if you want any sort of challenge at all. Even at 5, it's still quite easy, right? And so that's another thing, is the boss battles, or I guess if you want to call them boss battles, aren't that hard, right? You can just put them in a corner and kind of, you know, just spam A and take them out quite easily. Again, you know, it's Minecraft, so it doesn't need to be the hardest thing in the world, but it would be nice if on your first run through you could make it maybe 1 more difficulty higher, just to make it a little bit more challenging. Alright, now obviously I'm playing this clip here to show you the map, and this is one of the dungeons, right? So they have levels. I think there's about 8 levels, and then they have 2 dungeons, right? And they kind of mislead you with the dungeons or crypts or whatever you want to call them. So after the first 2 levels, you unlock 2 dungeons for each of those levels. And that starts to lead you to believe, okay, you're going to get a dungeon for each level after you complete it. But that's wrong. You only get dungeons, those big open areas, for the first 2 levels. And those are the only big, huge dungeons in the game. There's many dungeons within each level, but they're not really as extensive and have the greatest loot in them like these individual levels do. But while we're on the topic, let's talk about loot. So, it's not great, right? What's there is cool, but there's not a lot of it. After the 3rd or 4th level, you're going to start to just see the same thing over and over and over again. And that's saying something for a game that's so short, right? And that's another problem that we will talk about in a minute. But, like I said, the loot's cool. It's not that the loot isn't interesting like an problem Anthem has, right? Where the loot's boring. It's all the same thing, just different rarities. It's at least somewhat interesting with different enchantments and all the different artifacts you can get. It's at least worth looking at and getting, and, you know, adjusting your playstyle with that. And so, something interesting about the loot is it doesn't get as repetitive as you think, but that's because of the game's short playtime, right? Now, yes, you can go back and play on the higher difficulty, but even, let's say, that takes you twice as long. Okay, we'll triple the story mode playtime, right? That still isn't really that long. I went through the story mode on difficulty 5 in 3.5 hours. Okay, and, you know, this is where the price point thing kind of comes in, where if you paid $20 for this game, 3.5 hours isn't really going to satisfy that $20 purchase, right? And if you have 4 players, you might go through this even quicker, or if you're on the lowest difficulty, this whole game might take you an hour. You know, you can fly through some areas, depending on the enemy difficulty, and I discovered everything. I went on each corner of the map. You can skip those dungeons. I mean, this game's probably maybe 2 hours, even shorter, if you don't do those dungeons, right? So I think this game would have a bigger loot problem if it was longer. So something like Anthem, and I'm comparing this to Anthem because that's our best example that everybody knows about. Anthem's story went on for, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 hours, let's say. But there were 100 individual pieces of loot. I'm making these numbers up. This game goes on for 3 hours, and there's 20 pieces of loot. So you can see how, yes, it's significantly shorter, but because it's shorter, you're not getting as annoyed with the same loot. In that 3 hour, time loop, you really can use the same weapon the whole time and not get too bored of it. I used the same weapon for a couple of levels and was fine, right? But essentially you're changing all of your gear after every single level if you want to experience all of the different playstyles and all of the different loot you can acquire through the game. Now, let's talk about the problem with the length of the game. Like I already mentioned, it's 3.5 hours on the hardest difficulty, exploring every level completely. Okay? Now, the problem with this is that there's already, if you look at the map, there's a section for a new island coming soon, a new level, right? But the problem with that is that if you actually click on that and you read the description of it, it talks about purchasing it, and that brings forth the thought of, will it cost money? Because if it costs money for more content in this game, I don't think that's the way to go. I definitely think this game should add free content, because for the people who paid $20 on PlayStation, or if you don't know about Game Pass, or you just don't want to get Game Pass for some reason, 3 hours is not a lot, and, I think personally, you should be spending about, 30 hours plus in this game, right? So they have a long way to go before they meet that number. Now, it's just a number that I would like for a game, but whatever your number is, if you like 3.5 hours, that's fine, And, I know who their audience is for this game, and that's fine. And you kind of see that in that it's not as in-depth with things, but this review is getting long, so I'll tell you about the things that I like. Okay, the combat is super simple, but fun. It's just fun the whole way through. It's probably because it's very short and not long enough to get stale, but the combat's fun the whole way through. The story, if you care about that, it's there, I guess. I mean, I didn't care, but if you want a story in this game, that's there. Like I said, the loot is alright. This game, we're gonna have to break it up, right? So, for the free to already own Game Pass people, right? You already have Game Pass, you bought it just because you like to see what new games come out, and this is the newest game they've added. For you, it's worth playing. You don't lose anything for playing it, right? Next category, on Xbox still, if it's on sale, Game Pass is $1 because they do this all the time. Buy it, play the game, fine, worth it. Even $10, you buy Game Pass for a month, and you play the game in one day, and then you can mess around with the other games on Game Pass, because they got a lot of good ones. It's good for $10, but only because you get, a couple hundred other games with it. I don't think that $10, $20 price range for 3 hours of gameplay is really worth it. If you're paying full price to $20, I would definitely wait till they add more content, and if it costs money for that extra content, it better be a lot of content. So it might kind of seem like I absolutely hate this game, but I promise I do not hate this game. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's just way too short. So basically, my review on this game, I guess I'm going to have to give it 2 scores, right? So the first score is if you already own Game Pass, and this game's essentially free for you, or you're paying $1 or whatever for it. It's a cheap, discounted price. It's, I would say, a 7. Around the 6 or a 7 range. And that all depends on the difficulty you play on, how much exploring you do, all that stuff. But paying the $10 for Game Pass just for this game, or buying the game for $20. Because keep in mind, if you pay that $10, you only get that for a month. You don't know when this extra content is even coming out. So paying that $20 price range, that full price for the game, I don't think the game is there yet, right? Like I said, it needs way more content. For something that you can sit down and play in one sitting, that's kind of just not enough substance there to ask for $20. There's a lot more games that you can pay $20 for and get a lot more content. But let me know what you guys think of this game. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you think it needs more content like I do? How do you feel about the loot? Let me know in the comments below, and I hope you guys enjoy this review.